Good morning, everyone. We're going to get started here in just a minute. We hope you're enjoying the wonderful breakfast. If you can work your way towards the tables, we will get started. I want to thank everyone for joining us. We're really excited and happy to have you. We know that today has been a really busy day. Apparently there are other events going on throughout the region, and we had a couple people indicate that they weren't going to be able to make it last minute. So we apologize for the empty seats, but I hope that you will enjoy. This is a wonderful program that has been set up. We have wonderful speakers, and I want to just give you a little bit of an introduction to the Office for Sustainability. First of all, I want to welcome you on behalf of UTPA and the Office for Sustainability for joining us. I'm not sure if you've been to any of our previous workshops. If this is your first time, we thank you and we hope that you will join us again. The Office for Sustainability strives to educate ourselves, this campus, and our community on sustainable products and practices. And so we are bringing you this session today so that we can all together learn about cycling as an economic development tool. Our speakers are here to help us understand how cycling has become a very important economic development tool. So we will get started here shortly. Before we do start, I do want to ask if everyone could please silence their cell phones. We understand everyone is probably very busy at work. So if any calls do come through, we just ask that you politely take your calls either in the hallway or outdoors. We do tend to get some voices that carry into the room, and we want to be courteous and give our presenters our undivided attention. So I appreciate if you could all silence your cell phones. Again, thank you. And as far as our Office for Sustainability and all the programs that we have brought since last year and again this year, we're really excited. It has been a wonderful year. We've had some wonderful turnouts and some wonderful reviews. You will be receiving a survey towards the end of the program, and we appreciate that you be honest and fill those out to help us further these programs. We strive to help, again, our community and ourselves understand what we can do to sustain quality of life. For us, sustainability is the ability to sustain quality of life, and we view that as something as important as making the correct choices, the choices that protect people, protect the planet, and protect profit. We call it the 3 Ps. That is the bottom line. We try to protect people, planet, and profit. And I know profit sounds greedy, so, but that is the term used in business. So we do want to protect our finances. So those choices that we make are important so that we can sustain quality of life. And we find that cycling is one of those wonderful choices. So we hope that you will enjoy today's program. Again, as I mentioned, we have some wonderful speakers. But before we move forward, I want to mention and give gratitude to our donors. We have 3 donors who started off with us last year and have graciously continued their generosity this year, and it is thanks to those donors that we are able to provide these sessions free of charge. So thank you to BBVA, Compass Bank, Innovative Block, and Lax Furniture. And we hope that if you do business with any of them, that you might mention, you know, these programs and how you feel about these programs so they understand that these programs are assisting and do have great impact for our community. Also, today's presentation is thanks to Metro McAllen, Valley Metro, Hidalgo County MPO, Ciclistas Urbanos, Urban Cycling Project, and Bike Texas. And our breakfast today is thanks to the Peña Eye Institute. So thank you to them. I'm sorry that we did not have their logo up there, but thank you to the Eye Peña Institute because we are having this wonderful continental breakfast thanks to them. We are on Facebook, and we also have a website. For those of you who are joining us for the first time, if you'd like to join us on Facebook or check on our website, we will be posting our future seminars on both. And also on Facebook, we tend to put up pictures of some of the events that we participate in, as well as these wonderful workshops. In the back, you will see, and thank you to Mr. Kevin Shropshire, who is with UTPA Video Services. He is here to videotape our sessions. This is the first year we are doing so. So we plan to post these sessions also on our website in the future for those who were unable to make it, or for those of you who want to share this information with some of your coworkers. So thank you. As I mentioned, we are participating in several events, and we have other workshops coming up. I will put this up again later this afternoon, but this is a save the date. April 12th is the screening of the film and reception Global Lens Light Thief, which will take place at the UTPA Library. April 13, Rob Forbes will be at UTPA, again at the Library Faculty Lounge, or did that change?
Actually, he's going to have his address at 9 to 7 at the Engineering Auditorium, which is a little bigger.
Okay, at the Engineering Auditorium. He is the founder of Design Within Reach and Public Bikes, so we encourage you to come that evening to listen to his presentation. April 14th is City of Edinburgh's Earth Day and Arbor Day event. It will be at Edinburg City Hall. April 17th is UTPA's Earth Day baseball game. It's UTPA Bronx versus the UT Brownsville Scorpions. So I know that we have a few gentlemen here from Brownsville, so we hope you will join us again for this wonderful baseball game. April 20th is our next workshop. It will be on environmental health, and April 21st we will join City of McAllen with their Earth Day event, which is Vida Verde at Quinta Mazatlan. Again, we post these on our website and Facebook, so please follow us and friend us. I understand that if you friend us, you'll get that much more information. So thank you again, and we will get started here. I need to get our next presentation up. With us this morning is Mr. Robin Stallings. He's been the Executive Director of Bike Texas since 2003, previously managing the legislative programs from 1999 to 2003 as a volunteer. The hallmarks of his tenure include bicycle safety education delivered to 200,000 children per year and a Safe Routes to School pilot program, along with legislative resulting in millions of dollars of statewide projects. Working on the past 3 federal transportation bills has also resulted in over $100 million after $200 million in rescissions in bicycle and pedestrian funding for Texas cities. Other legislative efforts include Texas bicycle tourism trails and multiple specialty license plate legislation. Robin served as chair of the TxDOT Bicycle Advisory Committee and active in Envision Central Texas, the Safe Routes to School National Partnership, and was a founding board member of the Institute of Transportation and Development Policy. He founded City Bikes in Washington, D.C., the 2003 Bicycle Retailer Advocate Store of the Year. Robin is a league-certified instructor and holds a bachelor's in Middle Eastern Studies from the University of Texas at Austin. He is married to Gail Cummins Stallings, a benefit auctioneer and the 2002 Lab National Bicycle Advocate of the Year. Please welcome Robin Stallings.
So thank you very much for that wonderful introduction, Marianella. And thank you, Weena, for the technical assistance. By the way, this was done in a Mac version of PowerPoint, so it's going to be exciting and interesting to see what other changes have been done to these slides. But some creative work here. Okay, so here we start. So my name is Robin Stallings, and I will start out with we recently won a national award for innovation at the National Bike Summit, so it's something my staff would want me to say. And Many of them were here recently and regretted that they were unable to come because we really love it in the Valley. We've had these recent trips here between here and Brownsville, and we're falling in love with the place. So I want to start with some economic benefits of cycling and do kind of a little overview of the range of different kind of benefits, but to also give you all an idea of some of the serious work that's been done out there, which, not being an economist, I'm not going to delve into the details of that, but I will give you all a little bit of an overview of it. This, done by Marsh Darcy Associates, was presented at the Texas Trails and Active Transportation Conference, and they did a fantastic study quantifying the benefits of the Greenway Bayou Trail System in Houston. And so the basic idea is that, let me see what I can do. You know, there's some benefits to this. Let me see if I can get a different view here also. Let's see. Nope, I think I'm going to skip that presenter view thing. Okay. Oops. So if you hold it one way, it appears to, so I turned it upside down, that's why I went backwards there. So, okay, there's a lot to be said for quality of life and, you know, green and healthy and all this kind of stuff, but I'm going to get into a little bit more detail of it. Here's an example of underneath a highway where they did some mountain bike trails. It's pretty exciting. And that's in Seattle. But even where you think that there's not an opportunity, there can be opportunities. These are some of the different impacts. I'm not going to go read the slides, so you can kind of get a little bit of sense of the ones that have a little bit of text on there. These are some of the different benefits of, and I'm going to give you all a second to read this. So they did a thorough study, a lot more detail about what the, you know, that their methodology and stuff was solid. But basically, $124 million annual benefit. They estimated if they did about a $600 million investment, that they could get $124 million a year. Many of the returns are dramatically better than that, but to return your money in that few years and then get the ongoing benefit for the long term is pretty powerful. And it benefits in so many different areas. You know, it's, I've heard somebody say you can hardly think of a major international problem that a bicycle isn't part of the solution. So whether you're talking about, you know, the oil or the you know, obesity epidemic, or the you know, obviously dependence on foreign oil, environment, air quality, and the global warming. Bicycles are a piece of that solution. The health benefits are pretty apparent, and that's the benefits of for individually, and of course for the on a macro scale, the benefits that we'll all get for the lower healthcare costs, which is obviously a big debate right now. But the way we do it is kind of pieces of things. And I'm talking a lot about bicycles, but I really mean bicycle and pedestrian infrastructure, and active transportation, which means transit also. So this is it's kind of pieces of the puzzle, and you can't just do one without the other. And it's not just bike trails, but there's also education encouragement involved, and that interface between the buildings and the streets are involved. How many planners are in the room? So we've got a couple of planners that really understand the importance of that connection from the building to the street, and how you make that connection if it's a pedestrian and bicycle friendly. So the obesity epidemic is pretty breathtaking, and I'm sure that all of you all are very familiar with that, since it's a big concern down here in the Valley, and it's particularly Hispanic and black populations are even more at risk than the rest of the population, but it's a big concern for everybody. This is the trend line. It's not looking good. Although this isn't the trend line in every country. Denmark, for example, has had a very positive trend line. So the business benefits, getting bicycle facilities and trails or on-street network. I'll show you more specifically what I'm talking about, that kind of stuff. But it's not just bicycle business, but all kinds of business. You know, you can just look at the difference in that streetscape. Which one do you want to visit? And I know that this area is quite a magnet because of the weather, just the natural gift of weather, that we get a lot of winter Texans down here. But we can get even more. Owner of a large company in Minnesota told me one time that if there were bike trails, I was talking to him about this vision of a trail that would, you know, tie Brownsville and McAllen together along the Rio Grande. And he said, if you had a system like that, half of Minnesota would come down every winter. Because they have much fewer decent days of weather than we have, yet they have a huge investment in trails and infrastructure. So it's not a bad idea to look and see what is it that the winter Texans like about back home, and what is it that we want to learn from and emulate. So here's another neat example of, you know, the before and after. You see it's just, you know, cars and pretty dead. And then this is the kind of activity. My wife and I were there a year before last, and it's just absolutely phenomenal what they've done in Denmark. And you look at the population too. Of course, this is mixed in with plenty of tourists, but a lot of those are locals. You can almost tell by looking if somebody's a tourist or a local by if they're wearing a tie, for one thing. But but they don't have a lot of heavy people, and they say that when they see somebody that is obese, then their first thought is, "Oh, that's an American tourist." So we're identified by our size now around the world. Congestion mitigation, we all have concerns about traffic. Is traffic congestion a problem around here as well? So fortunately, I haven't been stuck in any of your traffic. But these are ways some traffic's being resolved. This is, I love this, of a traffic jam in Copenhagen. But this is a rush hour pictures of that I took while there. One thing that they have done is they make it a point to design for 8-year-olds and 80-year-olds, and so you get pictures like this. This isn't just a bike lane, by the way. This is what's called a cycle track because it's grade separated. Right there is about a 3-inch rise from the roadway. So, and then the sidewalk is right over here, and then that's another bit of a rise. So the bikes tend to not ride on the sidewalk, and cars can't easily be in the cycle track. And so it's the kind of thing that you wouldn't mind your grandmother or your 8-year-old child out there on a bicycle. This is kind of interesting. This is a little closer to home. This was actually in Austin, Texas, that to get from this apartment to this school, you had to drive over a mile. I guess a round trip because you had to, you know, with all the cul-de-sacs and everything else. But with a simple change and some wire cutters, it was possible to make a really direct connection. So I'm sure that gives heartburn to some property owners. But Safe Routes to School has kind of got this idea in mind. Imagine what that does for all those cars that no longer have to be on that collector road or arterial to get to the school. That frees it up for everybody else. 25% of morning traffic has been identified as a school trip. And most children that are hit on their way to school are hit by a parent of another child. So there's a lot of reasons why we'd want to empower our kids to bike and walk more to school. And things like bicycle trains and walking school buses. So this is just kind of a survey of some different ideas about tourism. In Texas, we've been working on this idea of bicycle tourism trails, and as a nonprofit in a very large state, we haven't done near as much on this program as we would like to. While the legislature encouraged the Department of Transportation and to work with the Parks Department and the Governor's Office of Economic Development and Tourism to identify routes crisscrossing the state like this. It didn't provide any specific funding for it. And it also encouraged them to work with stakeholders like Bike Texas to get this done. But again, we have our own funding challenges, so this has moved a little slower than we'd like. But in some places, they have done this, and the province of Quebec in Canada has tied all of their cities together with bicycle trails separated from the roadway. And here's an example of one of the businesses that took off. This is an old rail trail. It's not even on a road. And this is a mission trail. We all know that the Riverwalk is the number 3 tourist destination in Texas, after the Alamo and after the outlet malls in San Marcos. But how amazing is it that you get something that is that phenomenal, that so many people, who's been to the Riverwalk in San Antonio? Raise your hand. Okay, so now, why did it take them almost 100 years to enlarge it or improve on it? And why didn't every city in Texas copy that idea? What in the world were we thinking? You know, it's just almost breathtaking to think about. And this particular jersey has got the missions and the San Antonio River and the trail on it. But this gives an idea of the different kind of themes that tourists like. History, they want to see the flora and fauna and of course the weather, all different kind of things. But there's something for everybody in Texas. You know, Texas is such a multicultural thing. From, we had the explorers and conquerors and immigrants from all over the world. And of course, Spain, Mexico, Germany, and of course, other parts of the U.S. before, when this was still part of Mexico and a republic. But look at this, the Buffalo Soldiers and Camino Real, which doesn't quite come down here. And then, of course, the Missions Trail again. So to give some perspective on the potential, in North Carolina and the Outer Banks, they spent $6 million to improve their bicycle infrastructure. They get a $60 million annual return off tourism. So next time somebody's saying, gee, we just don't quite have the money to improve the bicycle infrastructure here, you got to wonder, what are they thinking? Especially right here, in Edinburg, this could be a mecca. And of course, even better when you work regionally, so that if you think about from Brownsville and McAllen and Edinburg and Harlingen, if everybody ties their networks together, that this could be really an international mecca for bicycle tourism. Here's another example of Wisconsin, and this counts the manufacturing. There's a new bicycle company in Corpus Christi that's taken off that does called Rugged Bikes, or Rugged Cycles, and they make heavy-duty refinery bikes. But it's turned out to work perfect for this new bike sharing thing. So that company has great potential to take off, and it's right here in the neighborhood. But also all the other benefits from recreation, tourism, and as Marianella said when we started, about quality of life. So a lot of times we can see the benefits that tourists bring, but we all get to enjoy it, all the other 364 days. When the tourists aren't here, we all get to enjoy it. And of course, we get to enjoy it with the tourists too. So we can build it for them, but we get to use it. And I'm not sure exactly why somehow that has more appeal sometimes to some policymakers than let's just improve our own quality of life. But as Marianella said about the profit motive, it really can get things moving. And when we can get the business community moving in the same, rowing in the same direction with the advocates and the policymakers and the planners, then it's very, very powerful. This kind of gives you a little bit of an idea. For every bicycle tourist, long-distance bicycle tourist, they're going to spend about $80 a day. And I've heard other estimates up as high as 200, but this is the most conservative, and that really adds up. This is when they're camping and even going the most budget. this gives an idea of the kind of street infrastructure. And I know y'all have some great bike lanes, and a lot of work has been done here, and it's really pretty exciting to see how this area has improved in just a few short years. But the separated facilities seem to be the trend of the future. And in Europe and a lot of the great cycling cities of North America, now New York would be included in that. Who would have thought New York is a place to ride a bike? Of course, Portland, we've all heard of that, but Minneapolis is in some ways better than Portland for biking. Chicago has done incredible stuff. The mayor of Chicago, this is called a cycle track, is one name for it. Sometimes they're called family-friendly bikeways. That's a name I really like. We haven't decided on a specific term of art yet for these things here in Texas or in North America, but so forgive me if I use the term cycle track. Now you all know what I mean, which is a separated facility that cars can't easily encroach on. Sometimes they're two-way like this, and sometimes they're one-way. So like one way on either side of the road. So that's not, and you'll see some different examples. But when the new mayor of Chicago, Rahm Emanuel, was in office, one of my colleagues and somebody from the bike industry, both in Chicago, went to meet with him. And he said, before y'all say a thing, they had the bike pins on you, before y'all say a thing, I want to tell you that we're going to have 100 miles of cycle tracks in my first 4 years in office. F Portland. And Rahm Emanuel is famous for having very colorful language, and he didn't say F. You know what he said, but just that determination that you can do it. What used to take 15 years or 30 years only has to take 3 years now. It doesn't have to cost that much. I mean, this is a little bit more than paint, but there is that extra barrier. So it's all very possible. But this is the kind of thing that tourists want to see. These winter Texans want to come down there, and they want to feel that safe. So this is called a buffered bike lane, which is kind of the same as a cycle track, but sometimes it's done mainly with paint. Here's another way to do it. I loved Gil Peñalosa from Bogota. Now he's living in Canada, and he's one of the world experts. I believe he's going to be coming to Brownsville, and so definitely, absolutely worth the trip to hear him if you get a chance, hopefully this fall. Well, he said that why would you have the bicyclists protecting the parked cars? Why not move the parked cars out to protect the bicyclists? And at the same time, you've created that buffer and you've created a cycle track without spending a lot of money or laying new concrete and asphalt. So here's just another look at cycle tracks. This one's in Austin, Texas, right by the convention center. Unbelievable what happened at South by Southwest. I know that Mark Pena was there. Did anybody else make it to South by Southwest, or have you been there in the last couple of years? Amanda made it. Was it not amazing the number of bicyclists that were there? Literally thousands of bicycles downtown. You couldn't get downtown without a bicycle hardly. And so many more people were able to be accommodated. We had a fancy PR firm from New York rented 25 of our bicycle fleet so that their top people could just get around from venue to venue. So, I mean, first of all, they didn't think it was odd to ride a bike because now they're used to it in New York. And at the same time, it was, I mean, they could have been in limos. So there's also this trend of green bike lanes, and I think some of those details aren't quite nailed down of, what does green mean, what does, there was, like in Denmark, they used blue, but blue is reserved for handicap. So there is a bit of a trend to use green a lot. Sometimes it's only used where there's a critical section where, say, cars might have to cross over to enter a highway ramp, and a bicycle route has to cross over that. So sometimes just those points of potential friction and collision are highlighted in green. And some places like Seville has just made everything green all over the place. Here's another way a cycle track was done. Again, this is from Seville, Spain, I believe.